If you need me to re-say something, just holler.
Okay, we're good.
Should we get water? Or,
Do you want a glass of water or anything? Because
I might as well. On the sink, there's like a Harry Potter glass next to the sink. You can fill that up, yeah. And
Fill it with sink water?
yeah, that's fine. I don't need ice or anything. As long as it's not the hot water. Thank you. It's my Hogsmeade cup from Harry Potter land.
We're just gonna have
Oh
one.
yeah.
Alright, so we're gonna start more broad and then.
Is that in the way?
just move it this way
Yeah.
a little bit. Perfect.
Okay.
Alright, we good to go? Alright, Brett, if you could just go ahead and introduce yourself.
Just my name and anything else, or?
Yeah, you can just say, yeah.
Okay.
Name and occupation.
Yeah.
My name is Brett Forrest, and I am a commercial producer at Fox 31 News.
Great.
Actually, can I have you scoot this way just a little bit? Okay, cool.
Alright.
Do you want me to repeat that?
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
My name is Brett Forrest, and I am a commercial producer at Fox 31 News.
Great. So Brett, when were you first diagnosed with IBD?
So let's see. I think it was between the summer of my junior and senior year of high school. Just one day, all of a sudden, I had an onset of symptoms. I could never pinpoint what triggered it, where it came from. And unfortunately, I let it go for probably a month or two, just hoping it would go away, you know, kind of a high school boy attitude. I don't know if anyone else deals with it like that, but I was like, all right, it'll go away, it'll go away. After 2 months and, you know, just the constant kind of diarrhea and whatever I had, I finally went to a GI. Well, I went to a general physician first, for lack of better options. And then he referred me to the GI, and so I was probably officially, they actually couldn't diagnose. I had ulcerative colitis, and they could not diagnose it. They couldn't pinpoint it until I finally had a colonoscopy, so that was probably, ended up being October 2006, I guess, is when it would have happened. And I first had the symptoms probably June or July of that year. So it took me a while to go to the doctor and then figure out what exactly I had.
Great. So you answered my next question, which was great. And so tell us a little bit about your journey from diagnosis to today.
It's a long one. I can do the long-winded version, or
Anything you
yeah.
got, yeah.
So essentially, when I was first diagnosed, I would have been a senior in high school. It's still pretty manageable at that point. It was, you know, early onset. The doctors were just prescribing me all the medications I had at the time. Unfortunately, none of them were working. It was probably a good 2 years. I tried every different medication they had. You know, it was the steroids. I was hospitalized right before college just to get some kind of transfusion that they had. That did nothing. Then I went to college up in Boulder, and so luckily my doctor is still in Colorado Springs, so I would still go see him regularly during college. But obviously, as time went on, the symptoms would kind of get worse, and you hear a lot of people can go into remission with medication, which sounds nice. It's not something I ever got to experience. So symptoms just kept getting worse and worse. And then finally my GI, Dr. Yazdi down in Colorado Springs, awesome guy, he told me I was probably gonna have to get surgery, and I was not down with that at all. Just the thought of surgery was just not in my interest, because from what I heard, they had to cut open my stomach, take out the entire, I guess, colon for the most part is what they do, and then you kind of have the bag that you poop into for a while, and I was like, that sounds miserable. I don't want that. So I kept going, kept trying medications. They gave me, I think it was something called Remicade. Does that ring a bell? Mm-hmm. Apparently the miracle drug. 97% of people I think it works on, or something like that, and of course, didn't work on me. So let's see, I guess about my sophomore year of college, after Dr. Yazzie told me I should get surgery, I wanted a second opinion. Obviously, it's a big decision. And then I saw this other GI, whose name I can't remember, but he just looked me straight in the eye and he said, if you don't get surgery, you are going to get cancer and probably die, and you have to get it. It was like, that is quite an ultimatum. So I felt like I had no choice at that point. I was like, I certainly don't want to die, certainly don't want surgery, but it's got to be the balance there out of the options. So from that point, decided to get the surgery. Had to make sure with my classes and everything that is going to time out well. And so I ended up getting surgery in Christmas break of my sophomore year of college. And it really came at a good time because my symptoms leading up to that, I'd have to go to the bathroom once an hour, and just planning my college schedule around that. I was able to for a little bit, but it just got unmanageable. And so I don't see how I could have even kept up with school or just any daily routine had I not gotten the surgery. So it was pretty rough. So yeah, I had the surgery, and it was supposed to be, I think, 5 days in the hospital. Out of the 2 parts, the first part, 5 days in the hospital, cut me open, took out the large intestine. I was asking my mom today, actually, I was like, is that called a colectomy, colonectomy? She told me colonectomy. I thought it was colectomy. I'm not sure exactly what I got. But yeah, so they took it out, and then some reason my body did not respond well to the reattachment, because I ended up having the stoma, so where the bag would attach, and then just the reconnection in my body, just it was not dealing with it well. So I almost died in the hospital after the surgery. It was a pretty miserable experience. I ended up in the hospital for 3 weeks, and lost like a good 50 pounds or something. And Dr. Yazdi, I remember he called me when I was in the hospital, and he's like, Brett, that's a 1 in a million chance. We don't know how that could have happened to you. They still don't really quite know what happened, but the surgeons at Presbyterian St. Luke's did a really good job. I ended up having 3 surgeries in all just to try to get my body to respond well. I was getting blood transfusions. Kind of the worst pain I've ever felt. Hopefully it'll remain the worst pain I've ever felt, because it was miserable. So finally, my goal was to go back to college next semester. And that whole ordeal, I was like, I don't see how that's going to happen. But they finally released me after New Year's, and college is going to start in a few days. I emailed all my professors and explained the situation. Obviously, they're a little accepting. So they let me come in a week late, but I was still determined to go back to school because I did not want to spend a semester in bed rest or not having a normal life. So I went back to school, and I had my little bag I was kind of pooping into. So a little embarrassing in college, but besides my roommate and close friends, I kind of told no one, and it was pretty manageable for the most part. Sometimes I would make some noises in the middle of class. I remember actually in the middle of a final, my bag just made a really loud noise, and I kind of looked around. I was like, hope no one heard that. Obviously everyone did, but I just played it cool, like, it wasn't me. And then after that semester, usually you're supposed to wait a month or 6 weeks to get the second part of the surgery, I guess, but they wanted to take my time and heal up fully. So after that semester, my sophomore year, I got the second surgery, removed the bag, reconnected. So it's all, I just have giant scars on my belly now, but no bag or anything. And so that would have been 2009, spring of 2009, May 2009, I had that second part of the surgery. And so the rest since then, it's been kind of smooth as it can be. I guess technically I still have IBD because I can't fully remove the colon. There's still that little bit they leave in there. So technically I still have it. I call myself ulcerative colitis free, but I guess there's still a little IBD in there. And it's about as normal as I can be. I still work out. I try to be as healthy as I can. And I think for how my body is, I do a good job of that. And I live a pretty normal life, because the best part after surgery is I can actually hold it now. I don't have to rush to the bathroom every hour. So, I might feel like throughout the day I have to go to the bathroom, but I can hold it. It doesn't hurt or anything, and I love that. So, that's kind of where I'm at. So I guess I'm, 7, 8 years removed from the surgery now. So yeah, it's been kind of a crazy journey.
That's great. Can you speak, so I know you brought up a little bit of your frustrations and barriers before surgery and post-surgery. Can you kind of elaborate on those a little bit as far as quality of life?
Yeah, I'm a pretty optimistic, kind of positive guy, so I could imagine someone in my situation would have a tough time. Luckily, I don't know, my friends and family were supportive of me. So it kind of kept me going. I loved college when I first got there, despite kind of my health complications. And like I mentioned, I got it first in high school, and high school kids can be mean and all that, but luckily the symptoms weren't bad at that point, so it wasn't an issue in high school. It just started getting bad in college. And, frustrations would just be kind of on the social side of things, especially my freshman year. It's like, I probably shouldn't go out tonight or go do this long adventure because if there's no bathroom around, I don't want to deal with it. So it kind of hindered me from doing some things I wanted to do. And then just by sophomore year, right before my surgery, it was just miserable because I remember like going through the course scheduling, just making sure I had no more than one class in a row because I was like, I won't be able to do it otherwise. So it's just a lot of foresight I'd have to kind of go through. Like I really had to plan out my day. Like, okay, if I'm going to go do this, I'll have to make sure I'm near a bathroom at that point. And just kind of doing that kind of planning just to want to go have fun is just kind of very frustrating. And then, is there any other part of the question I missed?
Oh, it was just frustrations or barriers. So
Yeah.
You're speaking to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I might think of something else later, but yeah, that's
Okay.
what I got for now.
Great. So what is your relationship with your doctor? So tell me about how that looks. You mentioned you had a primary physician, and then
Mhm.
how did that sequence look, and what were your relationships?
Yeah, so
Like-
pretty much before all this, I was just one of those kids who'd get an annual physical with general physician, required for high school sports and all that. So I get that yearly, usually never any issues. And then once this happened, once I got the symptoms, before senior year of high school, I talked to my mom. She didn't know what to do either. So we're like, all right, let's go to the general physician who, it's family practitioner, a guy we trusted who I think I've known my whole life. Dr. Maynard, Ned Maynard's dad. Yeah. Went to him, and it was a pretty quick visit, and he's just like, well, sounds like you got some gastrointestinal issues, which is obvious, in hindsight, but I didn't know what to do at the time. So he referred us to my main GI doctor, Yazdi in Colorado Springs, and he was just an incredible guy, just very good kind of bedside manner, I guess you call it. Just made me feel at ease about everything. I never felt worried or uncomfortable once when I was dealing with him. And then, so he'd do all the blood work that I had to go through. And then once he gave me the colonoscopy, which, did not sound fun, but then, it was pretty painless, effortless, and he kind of walked me through it. So kind of having the relationship with Dr. Yazdi kind of really helped me get through the early stages of it. And then just the issue is when I had to go to college, and I wanted to keep him. I didn't want to get anyone up in Boulder, so I ended up having to drive down. I was willing to drive down to Colorado Springs just to kind of keep him as my doctor, and I felt very comfortable with him. Then when it came time for surgery, he recommended Denver and Presbyterian St. Luke's, which is where I got set up with. Well, he recommended that, but I went to 3 different hospitals. Just because we wanted to make sure we had the best surgeon that I'm most comfortable with. My mom thought that was something that was important, and I agreed with her. So I think we went to the Children's Hospital. I was technically 18. They could see me, but I was probably like 6'4", 6'5" at that point. So they're like, yeah, we could see you, but you're too big. You go to a real hospital, not a Children's Hospital. So then I went to, I met with the doctor at the CU Medical School. And then I met with the Presbyterian St. Luke's, Dr. Graham Sellers, who I ended up going with. And him as a surgeon, too. I mean, I wasn't supposed to deal with him as much as I did, but he ended up making me feel very good because he recognized that things weren't going well. So I remember him coming in at 3, 4 a.m. when he had to give me a second, third surgery that I had to go through. And just the fact that he was, on call and able to come in and help me survive all that, I was very thankful for that. So the doctors through the whole thing, people are always scared to go to the doctor, but they're there for you. And, if you wait too long like I did, I don't think, me waiting 2 months to go see the doctor initially would have made much of a difference. But, you have symptoms of something, don't be scared. And tell the doctor everything, and I'm glad I did. So I had a good experience with all my doctors.
Okay. Did you have ever run into a misdiagnosis?
I kind of did. The details are hazy. So I remember it did take a couple months for them to diagnose me with ulcerative colitis, and so first couple of times they were saying I might have something else, and I can't exactly recall what they thought I had. Just that's just based on blood work and what other tests they're giving me. But it was a colonoscopy that kind of solidified it. So it's kind of interesting because the symptoms, to me, when I read up on it, it's like, that's obviously ulcerative colitis, but somehow it's really hard for the doctors to tell at first. So luckily it's only for a couple months, and so it's not like I went on some crazy plan that was totally misdiagnosed and not helping me at all. But yeah, I did go through that a little bit.
And then do you ever remember having any like misconceptions of after your diagnosis, like thinking that something could cure it, you didn't have to go through medication, things like that?
I think the misconceptions I had about all this were just it was a medication, because it really seems like a lot of people are able to go into remission for, it doesn't last forever, but it's nice for the people who can. So I thought, I went through every medication they had, and I thought one of these has got to work. And one of them was just brutal. They gave me a shot, and I had to inject myself in the stomach with a shot. I was like, this is terrible, but hey, it's going to make me feel better. And just, telling myself these things. And granted, of course, it's worth it. It's worth me injecting myself in case it did work. But I remember thinking, all right, this is going to be the one that'll make me feel better or go into remission. This will be the one. And yeah, it kind of sucks to think back because injecting myself in the stomach, I did not enjoy that.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So that's actually a good lead into my next question. And you may or may not have a good grasp on this since you were pretty young, but did you have an idea of what the diagnosis cost you financially?
So I guess I have the benefit of having been young and being on my parents' health insurance plan. So I'm not fully aware of all the costs involved, but I know, seeing the doctor at least a dozen times in a year, probably more, and then all the different medications. I mean, I cannot imagine how expensive that would have been. But yeah, luckily I was 17, then 18, then 19 through the whole ordeal. So just being on the health insurance plan, I'm sure my parents loved, and then. And it's funny, I do remember getting the 3 separate surgeries when I almost died in the hospital and they had to keep reopening my scar. It was like, I remember Dr. Sellers like, don't worry, we're not charging you for these extra ones. I was like, thank you. But yeah, I mean, I do remember pre-insurance, vaguely, the surgery at least, I think was like $8,000 initially just for the first part. And then I think each additional one was probably $3,000, $2,000. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm glad you didn't charge the other ones. And then I'm sure insurance kicked in and covered a good amount of that. But yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to worry about the finances of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let me kind of reframe here. So, and you already touched on this, so once again it might get a little repetitive.
Okay.
But do you think that the surgery was worth it?
Yes, I absolutely think the surgery is worth it. I still wish I didn't have to go through it, but in retrospect, it's made my quality of life infinitely better. No one ever wants to go under the knife, but it's almost always ends in a positive result. And it's like I mentioned, right before surgery, every hour I had to go to the bathroom. And it's not like I could hold it, I just had to go. And I'd have to leave class early or be to class late. I actually got in trouble with the professor, and I had to explain the situation to him, and he was like, he felt terrible and he's flabbergasted. But then post-surgery, yeah, I went through a terrible time in surgery. I don't want to go through that experience again. But I know many other IBD patients who had this surgery and didn't have any complications like me. They completely love it. Yeah, it's just my quality of life. I feel like I live as normal life as anyone else. Yeah, maybe I go to the bathroom a few times more, but whatever. If people have an issue with it, then that's their problem. It's not my problem.
Worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see, you already answered that. Oh, did you have any side effects related to your medications or other treatment?
I'll just strain my memory here. I remember like taking the steroid medication. It would kind of make me break out a bunch, especially on my back, which I guess is something to do with steroids. And then, what else was there? I'm sure there were side effects. It's hard for me to remember
Sure.
at this point, yeah.
Yeah, totally fine.
And I'm sure they weren't as bad as like me pooping an hour a day or every hour, so.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever they were, I
Yeah.
clearly didn't care.
Yeah. Okay, great. So what do you know now that you wish you would have known in the beginning?
What do I know now? I guess just the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I like to make a bad pun. Can I swear?
Yeah, go for it.
So, yeah, it gets pretty shitty, but once you get the surgery, or you know, when it works with the medication for people, it's great on the other side. I mean, I could see how people could just think, this is going to ruin my social life, it's going to ruin my work life, but you know, the medical advances they're always pushing forward, and you know, I know there's all these new techniques for trying to deal with IBD, like healthy poop injection that I keep hearing about. It's like, that sounds amazing. I would have loved to try that if it had been around in 2006, 2007. So, I mean, just, you know, be open to ideas and new techniques or new styles of surgery, and you know, the doctors are there to take care of you. So I'm glad I went through all of it. Yeah.
And so what would you tell someone who's just been diagnosed with IBD?
I would tell whoever has IBD, you know, talk to someone like me who's been through it. I've personally talked to 3 or 4 people who've kind of gone through the same ordeal, just because they know, because it's no secret what I went through. So people would come to me for a relative or for themselves, and it's like talking to someone, I think really helps you, because I didn't have anyone to talk to because I didn't know anyone who had it when I was first diagnosed. But I think just being able to explain the process, and me explaining that hopefully their surgery can't be nearly as bad as mine was, so they have nothing to worry about. It's like, look at me, I'm happy, I'm living life, and I almost died in surgery, and yours is going to be way better than that. So I think having that perspective from other people, and you know, it's I would tell someone surgery is not the only option, so don't worry about that first. You know, the medications will hopefully help you, and if not, I'm kind of proof that the surgery is not the worst thing in the world.
This ties into the next question, last question, but do you have any advice for someone who suspects that they may have symptoms of IBD?
Yeah, you know, if you have symptoms, which could be a number of things, but you know, constant diarrhea, bloody stool, a lot of people get pain in the abdomen, which I never had, which is kind of strange. If you have anything like that, it's embarrassing in this country to talk about digestive issues, which is just kind of dumb. So, you know, don't be embarrassed to talk about it. I was embarrassed to talk to my mom about it, and that's why it took me 2 months to talk to her. And, you know, I kind of regret doing that, because I should have gotten to the hospital right away. 'Cause I think they say, you know, if symptoms persist for like more than a week, you should go in. And so, yeah, I have friends who know what I went through who are like, Brad, I've had diarrhea for like 5 days now. Should I be worried? And I'm like, well, dude, give it 2 more days, then you should actually probably call someone. And no, not worth taking a risk. It's like just a quick trip to the doctor and, you know, ease your fears. But yeah, I mean, my advice is just don't think it's don't buy into the stigma around digestive issues. It's just talk to your doctor, talk to your parents, talk to your spouse, your friends, whoever you need to. And you know, if they make fun of you, maybe not the best friends around, but you know, they'll be understanding, and the sooner you get some treatment, the better.
Awesome. All right. And then Diana, so if you guys have other questions to ask, then you just look at me when you answer. But do you guys have anything? You do?
I do.
Okay.
So I think you may have briefly touched on this, but how many doctors did you actually see before you were diagnosed?
Just diagnosed, or for surgery too?
Just diagnosed.
Yeah. So when I first had the symptoms and trying to figure out what I had, I ended up really just only seeing my general physician, who then referred me to his GI, Dr. Yazdi. So I really only saw 2 doctors before I got diagnosed. But like I said, it did take some time to finally diagnose me once I saw them. But also, like I said, I love Dr. Yazdi, and so It's like, okay, well, he can't diagnose me, but I don't want to go to anyone else. I want to stay with this guy. So I'm sure some people might have gone to a different doctor at that point. But yeah, it only took me 2.
And then are you still currently making clinic visits and taking meds?
So now, was it 20? So I guess 11 years since I was first had symptoms and diagnosed, and then I guess 7 years since my surgery. I don't take any specific medications. I was highly recommended to continue taking probiotics, specifically this thing called VSL number 3, which I do take, not regularly, because it is kind of expensive. So I think it's like $60 a bottle. So I buy it when I feel like I have the funds to buy it, but luckily I don't think I'm unhealthy enough that it's that necessary. But yeah, you know, I'll eat yogurts or things like that I know have probiotics, just to kind of keep that going. And last kind of doctor-related visit to anything with my GI tract was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I was traveling abroad to Thailand, and I was like, all right, I want to make sure that I'm good to go for this trip. So I scheduled an appointment back at my old hospital and ended up being with this GI guy who had helped with my surgery initially. He's like, I remember you, glad to see you're doing well. And then I just told him what I'm doing, and you know, he did whatever. He kind of checked me out, and he's like, oh, you look good. You probably don't need to come in here unless you're trying to get like a regular colonoscopy. So I'm kind of good on the doctor visits, I hope, knock on wood. Yeah.
Great. Do you have to go back in for screening earlier since you have this condition?
I should,
Regular visits?
yeah, I should probably look back into this because they did tell me specifically, but I think I do have to go back for a kind of colon cancer screening, just general colonoscopy. You know, I don't know what you'd call it with me since I don't have a colon, just to make sure that everything's good to go. I don't know what the typical age is. I want to say like 50. They recommend guys to start going. I'll probably wait till my mid-30s and maybe go check it out unless I feel like there's something wrong. But yeah, I do imagine I'll have to go in there earlier than most other guys.
Okay. Anybody else? Good?
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it.
Cool.
Is there anything
Yeah.
else that you'd want to say
Yeah.
that maybe we haven't touched on?
I think we hit all the nitty-gritty. No? I'm good.
All right. Perfect.
Cool.